Throughout the class today we're going to learn about the three types of wind. First one that I'd like to talk about today is true wind. Do we have any idea what true wind is? Nick, do we have any idea what true wind is?
Well, an example is there like leaves on a tree?
Yes. Sam, can you add on to that?
Well, a true wind is a natural wind.
Yes, exactly. So if we sum that up, it's the wind that you find outside. If we have an example of this, so if we have a flag, this is the wind that's outside, just imagine. And the flag, a representation of the true wind, would be a flag that's billowing in the wind. Make sense? It's pretty easy stuff to understand. The next kind of wind that I would like to talk about today is boat wind. Does anyone have any ideas to what boat wind is? Marie.
Well, I think it's the wind that your boat is leaving behind. So as it moves forward, it's the wind that it's leaving behind it.
All right. To add on to that, I'd like Sam to come and run across the room with this.
This is cool.
Right. So if we combine this with Marie's example, we can pretty much determine that boat wind is created by the force of an object moving through the air. So as I'm pushing this propeller through the air, it's going to be moving and creating its own wind. And it's the same thing that when we're sailing. When the boat's moving through the water, it will be creating its own wind. Alright, now that we have a basic understanding of these two types of wind, let's see where they are positioned on our model boat. Knowing that on a beam reach, the true wind will be here and the boat wind will be here, right? Where are the two types of wind going to be positioned when we're in irons? Sam, would you like to come up here and demonstrate for us?
Okay. So, boom. Waiting everywhere. Then, true wind there, and it would cancel out the boat wind.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we're in irons, we're not moving, we're not feeling any boat wind.
just the same.
Good. Marie, would you like to tell us where the wind is positioned on a run?
Well, the wind on the run is coming from behind, from over here, right? The true wind is coming from behind. Oops. Right here. You probably want your boom over here, so you maximize your speed.
Exactly. So I think we're really starting to understand this stuff, and we're ready to introduce our third type of wind. But one thing I forgot to look before we learn about that, one thing I haven't mentioned yet, is that these arrows are vectors. Vectors basically represent a force. In what we're learning today, that force is wind. This is the head of the vector, and this would be the tail. The longer the tail, the more magnitude it has, and in the case of wind, the more speed it has. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, that's good. So now, let's bring in our third type of wind, apparent wind. So let's go back to a beam reach. On a beam reach, we have the two types of wind. Well, on any point of sail, you have the two types of wind. And
Except farm.
this comes in because we're adding up, because the apparent wind comes along when we add up these two. Because you can't adjust your sails to the true wind, because you're going to get there and you're going to say, oh, my sails are flapping, and you can't go to the boat wind. So that's weird. What do I adjust my sails to? Well, you're adjusting it to the apparent wind, which is located. Does anyone know? Yes?
Well, I guess it would be in between true and boat wind.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the middle. Now, some other time in this session, we're going to learn the actual mathematical formula, and we're going to do more vectors problems to find out exactly where it's positioned. But generally, it'll be in the middle.
Question.
Yes.
So when I see the telltale at the end of my shroud moving, and I'm actually sailing, what wind is pushing it?
So the wind indicator attached to your shroud, when you're sailing, is going to be the apparent wind. Why?
Well, my boat is actually moving, so I have one vector that's influencing it, which is my boat wind, and I also have my true wind that is impacting on my boat. So I guess I understand now why it's the apparent wind that is trading wind.
Yeah, that's good. So everyone understands that?
Yep.
It's because when you're sailing along, because your boat's moving, so you will have boat wind and you will have the true wind impacting your wind indicator to indicate the actual apparent wind. So it's not going to indicate the true wind nor the boat wind. It will, the boat wind and the true wind will both influence your telltale so that it is accurate and influences the apparent wind. And so which one of these three kinds of wind do we need to be sailing to? Yes?
True wind.
No.
Why?
Because true wind is the one that you've been using a lot.
No. It's apparent wind.
Exactly, Sam.
Oh.
Can you enlighten us?
Well,
Now we have a better understanding of the three types of wind. I'm just going to show you how we can use vector diagrams to study the magnitude of the three kinds of winds. True wind. Okay, so I have my true wind blowing on a beam reach, my boat sailing on a beam reach course. Then my parent wind is going to go from the tip of the true wind to the head of the boat wind. So tip to tail. That's the basic formula for vector diagrams. And now, using this model, we can see just how these two, how the boat wind and the true wind add up to make a very powerful apparent wind. Because, look, Sam, which out of the three kinds of winds, which one's the longest?
apparent wind?
Yeah, so the vector of the apparent wind, the force of the apparent wind, is the longest, therefore its magnitude will be greater, so its strength is going to be the greatest. And that's why you want to have your sails trimmed to the apparent wind, because it'll help you'll go a lot faster that way, and it'll solve you a lot of problems. Alright. To sum this all up, guys, we learned about three kinds of winds today. First one is true wind, which is the wind that we see outside. Examples of true wind would be like the waving flag or smoke on a smokestack. So we see this, it's the wind that you find in nature. Boat wind, it's the wind that you feel when you're zipping along the highway at 100 kilometers per hour and you stick your hand into the car and you feel wind. That's boat wind. And apparent wind is what you get when you take these two and combine them together. Apparent wind, it's what you want to be adjusting your sails to. It's what you want to be sailing to, basically. So thanks everyone, good work, and that concludes our lesson for today.